Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast Addendum with me, your host, Imperial Dane, talking today about a topic I said I'd talk about, the Wehrmacht Panther. Yes, indeed, the Panzerkampfwagen 5 Panzer. A very expensive to get medium tank in the game, also one of the medium tanks that can be most quickly just disregarded and put out of its misery. I mean, for all the resources you have to put into it, which is probably only second to the King Tiger, really, and overall means you will only be getting it like at the 22-minute mark, which usually means at that point you could also just go for a Tiger without investing that many resources into infrastructure. You don't really get nearly that much. And that has resulted in the Panther getting rather maligned. The Oberkommando Panther isn't quite as bad because A, you can just get it out faster. It has actually slightly better stats and overall also better veterancy. But just the idea it can hit fast, it does make the Oberkommando Panther a lot less rubbish. That is really one of the problems, for example, just to start out with the Wehrmacht Panther. It can hit, it can hit select. Your opponent can easily have two medium tanks out if you actually decide to go for the Panther, which already there sort of puts a problem. Because then you actually need to have either really good play or a sizable advantage for it to work, and even then, either way, you're trying to sort of giving your opponent something to work with. Factor in low DPS, and again, increasingly armor that is not that good, especially if it gets outmaneuvered. In this case, so of course, Spanky is making some poor moves with the Panther, easily allowing the opponent to get rear shots, which certainly isn't helping. But it just can't really have much of an impact simply because, and this is also in part due to some other elements, but you just can't get a foot to the ground in most cases. Again, for something that hits so late, has so much of a resource investment required for it to work, it just doesn't quite have that impact. Compared with the Comet, which is in fact a mini Tiger. It's, well, 3/4 Tiger or a half Tiger in essence, because it has roughly more or less the same stats as a Tiger, slightly less health, slightly less armor. It's actually faster, slightly slower rate of fire. It doesn't quite have so much AoE, but actually has better accuracy, in particular with the commander, better vet up, better ability to allow it to also work versus infantry much more aggressively. And that again, is a tank which is non-doctrinal, and certainly also a lot easier to get than the Tiger. And again, that's sort of in a sense, well, again, we can sort of closest compared to the Panther in terms of non-doctrinal armor. Something that's closest to the Tiger tank and the Panther itself, and can usually sort of take on a Panther quite easily, simply due to, again, having high rate of fire, which in most of these cases, plus better line of sight, will determine such engagements, and better accuracy, which again is also another problem with the Panther. It can't really hit very much. I mean, it does. It's not something extraordinary. I mean, compared with the Company Who's Won Panther, that one was pretty good. Again, people feared it. Why was that? Well, for starters, the Company Who's Won Panther tended to do more damage than the medium tanks. The Wehrmacht Panther does the exact same damage as other tanks, which rather puts it sort of an awkward spot where, again, it's somehow supposed to outdo them, but it can't, especially not the Western Allied tanks, because they're a term called power creep hit pretty hard. Partly because, for starters, they all get better accuracy on the move, which overall means they can just outmaneuver the Panther easier, and they got a lot more utility. American tanks, self-repair, usually smoke, plus, again, they can shoot on the move. British tanks, again, we got the Comet with white phosphorus, grenades, commanders, which allow for a lot faster veterancy gain, which then allows Corps to get the upper hand in terms of veterancy against the Panther. And, of course, in that case, non-doctrinal blitzkriegs, or non-veteran blitzkriegs, as opposed to sort of, that more the word I was looking for, rather puts the Wehrmacht Panther in sort of an awkward spot. And again, it's just sort of been left behind. It's been nerfed so many times because people kept complaining about it, and then the Allies hit, and Western Allies specifically, and then it was never really sort of brought up to speed. It's sort of been left languishing in the darkness. It can't really compete. It can be good, but it requires so much more effort for the Panther to get anywhere good, which is usually veteranly too. It has a slightly better chance because, again, everything got their armor penetration buffed, and with the upcoming buff to guards, anti-tank rifles, and penal triple anti-tank rifles, that'll probably be even less, since they'll just, get more damage done even if they fail to penetrate the armor. And that's, only going to make the Panther kind of worse. So again, I kind of wish, rather than putting all that effort into the penal troopers, and of course they still need some work there, I kind of wish they did the same effort to the Panther for the Wehrmacht, because that one really needs it as well. The Panther just is lacking. Again, it can't compete. It has been left behind. It has been power creeped out by every other allied tank. when a pair of Cromwells can take on a Panther reasonably well, since they can just basically outpace it, run past it, and just shoot it in the rear, and usually then do more damage, and the Panther can't really threaten them in most cases, nor does it have any other niche. And again, that's kind of a problem when those situations sort of develop for a tank, That's not something that should be the case for, again, was described as one of the best tanks in the Second World War, which would go on to, form the basis for, the main battle tank concept. Yet in the game here, it's pretty much, not that good. Again, it's not terrible or bad, but it's not worth the price, and that's really the problem. It is just not worth the price, which is not just in terms of resources, but also just in terms of attention, because unlike the Allies could just, Western Allies could just say pop up tech, without having to really pay attention to it or send troops to build. You have to do that here. You have to take up every tier. Remember doing that. Then you have to send someone back to build, which again means drawing a unit away from the front line. Then build it up, and then you can finally build some stuff. Then again, all of that takes more time, because again, you have to then research the tech, then build, or research a lot of tech in this case, which again also costs time. There's so many costs, in fact, involved in getting a single Panther, and it just does not live up to all of these costs. And that makes the Panther, a lot harder to get anything out of. And again, it can't really threaten very well, because it's got such low DPS. It doesn't have a high rate of fire, or at least more damage per shot, which again also means it can't threaten Allied armor very much, nor does it synergize very well in other respects, like some of the Allied tanks do, for example, Shermans. With other Shermans, or in my other vehicle, for example, if they actually use combined arms, in a moment of actual, responsiveness, which again is also funny. Again, the Americans, who were known for not being very good at working tanks and infantry together, get an ability for it, but the Wehrmacht has nothing. And again, if I were to suggest something for the Panther besides a damage buff, it's, replace this one with some, combined arms passive ability, similar to the Shermans, but just works for the infantry. Give it, more accuracy, or maybe some suppression to the machine guns, just something, so, there's a bit more reason to also have it then, have a bit more impact, and maybe, some skill involved in working it, some other ways. Because trust me, most people tend not to use most abilities, even passive ones. I mean, if anything, can just highlight a bit more skill there, and that way allow to perhaps even excel, that would also be, a good way of doing it. But again, otherwise, just buff the damage for starters. But really, there just needs to be something done about the Panther, because in its current position, it's sad. Again, it's supposed to be this big bad thing, but it's not really. It's, in most cases, manageable. And it's so easy to just, quickly damage or even knock out. And it just can't threaten it back. I mean, either you need to get up highly in veterancy, which is really difficult, again, compared to, say, Comet, which can do it really quickly. Oops, my apologies there. Or you need two of them, which is also really expensive and really difficult to get. I mean, that should, sign up. There's a bit of an issue there with the Panther. Even one should be a threat to Allied armor, but currently it's somewhat of a threat, but again, it's not a threat that really fits the price tag. So really, they need to look into it, and I really do wish, Relic ends up watching this and going, alright, the Wehrmacht Panther is going to be priority in this balanced preview patch while we still have a chance to do some more radical stuff with it, before, February comes by and we put out this big balanced patch, because really, the Panther needs it. I mean, it's bad enough they stuck it with a Model A model, not the proper Model G, which would again would have been more proper for 1944-45, but, to then not even have it that good, it's kind of sad. Again, it's a Panther, damn it. It's a Panther. It's supposed to have some kind of impact, but again, most of the time it does not. So again, my suggestion, replace this Blitzkrieg ability, which, most people hate or just used to, conduct a French jitterbug, with something, again, that sort of works well with a combined arms theme, and, just buff its damage per shot. Just give it more impact against the Allies. If that could happen, I think overall the Panther would be an overall much more interesting unit, and I think, more fun to see actually being utilised. So there you go. Quick video here, hoping, praying that something happens with the Wehrmacht Panther, because, again, so many other units seeing something happen. And in theory, if they did it with the Panther, they could also do it with the Panther IV. They could all do it with the more Wehrmacht vehicles and tanks, which would be good. Again, they're supposed to be the combined arms force, but mechanically, there is nothing supporting it, which is a bit weird. And again, the Americans get it, and they were historically known not for being good at it. So That's, one of those bigger questions in life. So there you go. If you agree with it, like, share, and subscribe. And of course, be sure to tell Relic that, do something about the Panther. Please, Relic, because, this can't keep going on. And when we got this big balance preview mod, why not do something about it while you still have the chance to do so? So there you go again. Hope you enjoyed this, hope you liked this, and hope you agree. This is Imperial Dane signing off. Cheers.